All right, kiddos, so I'm going to very quickly recap what we talked about last week regarding gridding a drawing. Now, in this case, this wolf already has the grids drawn on this image. The photos that you have been supplied with do not have any grids on them. You will need to be making a grid at every ½ inch. Now, understand that on the ruler, that does not mean ½ inch and then 1½ inch and then 2½ inch. That means this is a ½ inch, this is another ½ inch, this is a ½ inch, and here is another one. Okay? So half and then 1, and then 1½ and then 2, and then 2½ and 3. So on the photo itself, your grids are going to be every ½ inch. On your drawing, which will be, the wolf will be on 9 by 12, the final large animal will be on 12 by 18. But on your actual drawing, you're going to make the grid every inch. Now, to really quickly go back to the grid, remember we have to line the ruler up to actual 0, not the end of the ruler. Okay? And we're going to make a mark every inch on the top. And we're going to do the exact same thing towards the bottom. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly at the top. It doesn't have to be exactly at the bottom. Remember, too, that we slide our ruler down, line up the 0 again, and then we make those marks. Now notice I'm also making the marks away from the ruler, not along the ruler. We go away from the ruler, and that's to make the mark really small so that when we line those up, those lines are really straight. Once you have the marks on the top and the bottom, you can barely see them in video, but they're here. You want it to be light. Line the ruler up so that both sides match. If you have to kind of hold the ruler down so you can pivot it, go for it. Once both marks are on the same side of the ruler, apply pressure, line them up and draw your line. And you're going to do that for all of these. So we're going to line these two up, draw our line. Line them up, draw our line. If the loops, I messed up here. If the line does not go through both marks, you done did it wrong, dude. So you need to do it again. Erase the mark and fix it. Line them both up, mark the line. Please note how lightly I'm drawing. I am not pushing down hard. In fact, I'm only holding the pencil with 2 fingers. Excuse me. So line both marks up, yay, line both marks up, and draw the line. Line both marks up, and draw the line. It gets really repetitive, but if you say it in your head, I mean, you can't necessarily miss the steps. Now I did, like I said, I did mess up a little bit on the bottom of this line right here, so we'll just fix that. Go on. We're going to rotate our paper, and we're going to do the exact same steps. So we line our ruler to the actual 0 along the top of the paper. I do not recommend doing it along the lines, just in case your marks are really close. The original dots are really close to a mark. So just keep it off of the line. And we're going to make marks away from the ruler at every inch on the top and on the bottom. When you're drawing on your photo itself, it's the exact same process. Make your marks off of the photo, but along the outside edge, because you're not going to be able to erase your photo, or you're not going to be able to erase on the photo. You'll ruin the image. On the photo, you'll be doing every ½ inch instead of every inch. Okay? Excuse me. So we're making all these marks. And then just like before, you're going to line up both and then draw your line. Line up both marks, top and bottom. If both of them are not lined up, if your line does not go through both of those marks, the top and the bottom, the line is not straight. Remember we talked about how sometimes it might look like you're lining the ruler up straight and it's all wackadoodle because, you know, you're second guessing yourself. Your brain plays tricks on you. If your measurements are correct, if you are doing this the exact right way, the line will be straight, whether it looks like it to you initially or not. By the time you're done, it will look straight. Just roll with it. Okay? Line up the top and the bottom. Wiggle it if you need to. Once you have them lined up, apply pressure. Lightly draw the line. Excuse me. It's early. I'm all stuffed up. Line up the marks. Draw your line. Line up the marks. Draw your line. Now, for the wolf specifically, this is fun. For the wolf specifically, we have a 10 by 10 grid. You'll notice that I'm covering up the A because we're not going to be using it. So we're counting from B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Make sure they match. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which means we're not using these bottom two rows. So we're just going to kind of lightly go through that. Excuse me. Just as a reminder, okay? So we are ignoring column A. If you need to cover that up, cover it up, okay? But what you need to do first is you need to map out features. So big things. We're going to figure out where the eyes go, the nose, the mouth, the ears, etc. We're going to do this as quickly as possible, so I'm not dawdling. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where the eye goes. So we're going to zoom in, like that. Let's scoot this over so y'all can see better. I can divide this box down in half, and I can see that that eye lands almost exactly in half. So I'm going to lightly divide this box down, and then I'm going to draw some simple shapes. The simple shape I see here is a triangle with a circle, or well, two triangles with a circle. So in this bottom quarter, we're going to draw a circle. Please note, I'm not trying to make that circle perfect the first time I draw it. I'm going around it a couple of times to make it what I need it to be. It does not have to be perfect. I'm drawing light enough that if I screw it up, I can erase. And then I'm going to map where this goes. I can see the end of this triangle. It's not an actual triangle, but it looks like one. So we're going to use that to guide our drawing. It ends about here. This one right here is a little bit low, and it goes about there. So if we connect those in, and we end up with roughly the right shape. Okay? We're going to do the same thing with the other eye. Now, I don't necessarily have to count. I can see I have this box, then I have a fully empty box, and then the eye's in the next one. So I have this box, I have a fully empty box, and then the eye is in this one. So that one. If we do the same thing and divide these in half, this eye also fits in that bottom quarter. So we're just going to lightly divide this in half. And we're going to do these same shapes because it's pretty much the same. So we have a circle here. Okay. Make sure it touches the edges if you see it touching the edge. Make sure it goes past the edge if you see it go past the edge. All right. We have the end of this triangle here. End of this one is about here. Connect the dots. La, la, la. So now we have two eyes. Now these eyebrow markings are really strong. So we're going to go ahead and draw those shapes. Just like before, they actually fit in the quadrants pretty well. They're a little bit bigger. And we're going to try to mimic that shape as best as possible. So this one kind of looks like a funky, I'm not really sure what to call this. Looks like a kidney bean. And then this one over here looks like a comma. So same thing, it still fits in that quadrant. Okay. Just draw it in there lightly. Pupils, just for the sake of having them. Look about where they are. Put them about in the right location. If it's a little bit off, you have this magical little tool called an eraser. Use it if you need to. All right, I'm going to zoom back out. And we have this big giant thing right here. Now we're going to do the nose. Now the nose actually goes in these boxes here, so we know it's down in this area. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the center of the nose. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the center of the nose. So we're going to zoom in about there. Because if you look really closely, you'll notice that this nose is actually in almost all of these 9 boxes. So we're going to use that as a reference. Starting here with the top, okay, we can see this funky little shape right here. So we'll just kind of lay that in. It connects about there, comes up to about here, and we're measuring, we're looking and guessing about where that is. I don't expect you to go as fast as I'm going, okay? The bottom nose, because this is all nose right here, so we're just going to skip this box. The bottom of this nose, if you look at your photo, you can't see it here in the image, but if you look in your photo, the bottom of the nose is about here, okay? We have the left side and the right side. We can measure that out. We can actually divide this box in half and then divide it again, and it's in a quarter. So we can divide in half and divide it again, and the edge of the nose is actually right in here. Look at where it crosses those lines. Pay attention to where the mark crosses the grid line, so it comes down about here. The same thing is true on this side. Divide it in half, divide it in a quarter, half, quarter, and it comes out, it doesn't quite reach that quarter. So we can pull that in here, And all of a sudden we have this nose shape that really closely mimics the nose he's got. I'm going to zoom out for this. Most of you guys would erase this nose. It looks way too big for the face. It doesn't look like it compares. It kind of looks like he's put a little clown nose on, right? I'm like, what's wrong? If your measurements are correct, and double check them if you're not sure, but if your measurements are correct, trust the grid. Okay? Trust the grid. Most of you will erase that, and we're just going to move on, and it's going to be wrong when you fix it. Okay? So we have this nose. I'm going to add some details which will make this fit in the face a little bit more. The reason this looks big is we have no context. We don't see any other pieces of the face except for these eyes, which look small. So we're going to fix the nose. We're going to do this little line right here. Now when I do this line, zoom back in. That might be a little bit far. Nah, they were fine. When I do this line right here, I'm not going to try to draw this perfectly shaped line that matches it exactly. I'm going to cheat. Okay? I'm going to draw from here to here. And draw that straight line. That is not what that looks like, and that's okay. This is a guide. It will help us make that line look good. Sometimes it's okay to cheat. So there's this little bitty hill in the middle of it. So we'll install that hill. Okay? And if you look at these corners, they actually curve around. So we'll just curve those around. And then all of a sudden we end up with this much easier line to draw that's cleaner. Okay? Now, if you look at your photo, you may be able to see where his nostrils are. You're not going to be able to see it in the projector because of reasons. But you can kind of get the idea of where these nostrils are if you're looking carefully at the photo. You're not going to see it otherwise. If you don't see them because the image is dark, that's fine too. Ultimately, if it's just a dark spot, that kind of works. So we're going to zoom out now that I've done that. And already that nose looks a little bit smaller. It fits his face better. Okay? The next context we're going to do is actually his mouth. Now what we're going to do for this is we're going to create a connect the dots. You guys did these when you were in elementary school where you had a series of connect the number 1 to the number 2, and then connect that to number 3, and connect that to number 4. You guys remember those? So we're going to make our own. What we have to do first, though, is we need to figure out where the dots go. So what I do is I look for places where the line changes. So we're going to get the endpoints of this line, which is in the middle of this box. You'll notice it's in the same box as the nostrils. It's all the way at the end. So it's a round, it's a larger shape. So I'm just going to kind of draw a circle right there. I'm going to get where it changes directions. Now this is not a sharp angle. It curves, but it still changes directions right here. So we're going to kind of gauge, it's about right here. Then we have the bottom of the mouth, which if we divide this in half, he's got a lip too. If we divide this box in half, it fits like exactly on that half. So we're going to make, it's not a dot, it counts. We're going to do this direction change here, which is about there, and then this end point is in the same box as the end of his nose, and it's about right there. Same sort of concept. It actually comes out a little bit, and then we're going to connect these lines. Now this is a direction change, so make sure you're getting the direction change. And then it connects into his lips. Now if you go in close here, if you go in close here, you can see his bottom lip, like the bottom of his jaw actually connects down here. It goes just a little bit past these box lines, and it goes down just a little bit. Now it's not a perfectly straight line. Draw it straight first, lightly, and then you can go in there and kind of add a little bit of the curving dimension that you need. That's a little bit too much, but it's okay. I don't think it's going to look bad. He's also got some curve here that I didn't get, so we'll just kind of adjust that a little bit. Let me zoom back out. Meow, like that. Sound effects not included. Please don't do that. If we all do that, it's going to get really noisy in here. Okay? So I'm just going to kind of loop these back in a little bit. All of a sudden, his nose really doesn't look too big at all. I haven't adjusted the nose. It looked like a clown nose a minute ago, but now it fits his face better. All right, so we're going to do the ears now. We're going to use the exact same process as we did here on his mouth for his ears. So we're going to count, and we're going to look for landmarks for when it does big directional changes and stuff like that. So 1, 2, remember, I'm not counting the A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. So in this box, at the bottom in the corner, is this first little edge right there. Okay? We can see it curves and it crosses at G and H about here. So we have a curve. Okay. It comes back up. It crosses here and it comes up and it touches here. The highest point is actually about right there. And we'll adjust the line as we go, okay? I'm still drawing very lightly, so when I need to make adjustments, I can. It curves back around and crosses almost exactly at that crosshair. Yoink, right there. A little bit steeper of an angle. Okay? It comes out just a bit and curves back in to about here. It comes in to here and goes back out again because, you know, curvy, apparently. It goes down in box 4. Now I'm going to double check. 1, 2, 3, fourth down, 1 over. About right there, a little bit lower than halfway. Okay, and then it comes back out to here. See how this crosses a little bit high? Look at your photo. Don't look at what I'm doing. Don't try to copy my stuff. Where did this mark come from? Probably dropped the pencil. Fixed. All right. Now, the widest point, I'm going to follow this curve all the way around his head. The widest point of this curve is actually right here between 6 and 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right about there. So we'll just like that. Okay. It comes back in to 7, it does this funky little direction change. Again, this is not something that you're going to see until you get close to the picture. All right, it goes down to about halfway through that 8th box, and it crosses at the crosshair again, right about here, and it curves all the way down into the bottom of I. Okay, so now we have his neckline. We went on ahead and did the whole ear and all the way down. Okay, so now we're going to do the inside details. So right here is this really gentle shape. It starts here, it crosses here, and here. And it actually comes back in and kind of almost attaches to down here. It ends at the bottom of 4, which is about here. And we know it's kind of an S curve. My hand is shaking, I'm sorry. There. So I'll erase those my hand shook too much things and we'll move on. There's also a line that connects right up in here and it kind of traces up that line. So I'm not going to do too much measurement. I'm just going to eyeball that one. Okay. And we have fluff. Really important fluff. You have to have the fluff. So we're going to start that right about here. It comes out to this line at the crosshair, almost exactly. It goes up a little bit. It's almost a straight line here, and then it kind of curves back into about there. There's a divot. So we've got this outside line, and then we just kind of cut the divot in. All right. There's this funky little fur thing right here. It starts about just a little bit below it, so about right here. It comes up and crosses that line, and then it smooths back into this curve. This one also has a divot right there. So if we just kind of like that, break that line up a little bit and it looks like fur. And we have the shapes for fur and we have the shape of our ear. We're going to do the exact same process for the other ear. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, I'm not counting A. I'm starting at B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. I'm going to do this one quickly. We have that same curve, comes up to here and crosses. The high point is in the top of C. It crosses about there for D. So we'll just kind of get this nice little curvy piece right here. To C, it goes just a little bit into that crosshair here. There, I need to make some adjustments. There we go. Comes back down into this crosshair here. So that curve is like that, and it comes down just about here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Just about there. Okay, this is actually a little bit of a lump, so we'll adjust that line. It starts here, and it actually ends 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right about there. So here, and we'll just make that a curve. Okay, so there's that side. And we'll make this little S curve, which starts here, crosses there, comes down into these two, and I'm going to actually check my numbers really quick. So in this one, yep, fourth down 3. So right here, fourth down and 3. Yay, another email. And then still in the fourth down, it comes about here. So there's this curve. Okay. We have this one again. This is like the same one here. It starts about here, it comes back just a bit, and it kind of traces the ear up a little bit. All right, we have superfloof again. The circle starts, this little curved part starts here. This comes up just barely along that line. It's got a couple hairs that extend beyond for right now, but we're just going to kind of put those in there really quick. I went a little too high, that's fine. It's also got a slight divot. Okay, we have the same shape here as in over here. So it starts about here, it goes up and touches that line, and then it curves actually just down from that line, and it connects back in about here. It's also got a funky little divot. Okay, now if we really want to push it, we can do this darker shape and just kind of value map a little bit. It's like this little funky banana thing going on in here. Please note how lightly I'm drawing it, because it's not really a shape that's there, it's the darkness that's in there. We can see the dark. All right, so now we have the ears. Now, most of you would just say that's the top of his head, but that's not what the box shows. If you look up here in the boxes, the top of his hair actually connects way up here. Just like the nose, it's not something that you would imagine to be correct. You have to measure. All right, so here's our wolf boy. What we have left to do is markings. We're mapping values at this point. So we're going to look at this funky avatar arrow he's got on his head here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's the top of the arrow. It goes just a little bit past this point on that side. It's kind of fat. It goes just a little bit under over here on this side. And then he's got like this line that comes up to the second box. So look, now he's the avatar. Ah. He's got these funky little Nike swish things under his cheeks. We're going to map those. Exact same process. Look at the distance. Look at where the curves end. I'm doing it quickly for time. Okay? So take your time to do this. Double check where these markings and where these shapes go. And we're just going to put them in and lay them in where we see them. So it's right under the eye here. We have this shape. It boxes up a little bit. In this case, it comes up here. This ends at the end of his eye. It's got like this funky lump in here. I'm eyeballing this. I'm trying to go really quick. You guys need to take your time and remeasure. You can see where it's darker. You are creating the shape. It doesn't exist as a shape. It exists as a texture. So you will have to make adjustments later, but for right now, we're just doing this now. Okay, we're figuring out where things land, and we're tithing them into the fur. I feel like this is not quite right. I feel like this needs to come down a little bit more. No? No, that's right. Okay. All right, well, we're going to measure out all these different markings. He's got this funky little upside-down comma thing right here. So right here. Notice how lightly I'm drawing. I'm not trying to draw heavy. Okay? He's got this really big mark down here. So 1, 2, 3, it starts here, comes all the way down to 4 and 2. So in the same mark here as that. Got like this funky little thing going on here. Comes down into D. This is actually just shading, okay? So there's a different field of color here, and that's what we're looking for. So we have all this. The other thing that you need to do at this point, you need to do shading. So where it's dark, you add darks. Where it's light, you leave it light. You add texture. Follow the direction of the fur, okay? So if you come back in here, we can see this fur. I'm going to go up here with the marking, actually. We see this fur texture. If we take our line and try to draw and match the direction and the length, these are short furs, so short lines, and notice that they're changing direction. So like going up the center of this, They're going to be mostly straight, but then they kind of fan out going along it. If you layer that in, it works. Okay? For here, it's not as much. There's actually a little bit of texture here. And we're going to adjust this line now. Okay? That pupil is way bigger than I need it to be. So we're just going to kind of shrink that down a little bit. We'll fill it in for dramatic purposes. Sorry about that. All right, so anyways, come in here, and we're going to make that darker. We can see there's a really nice dark, heavy line over top of this. So I'm just going to kind of bring that back a little bit. Notice my marks aren't clean. That's okay. It's okay if it's not perfectly clean. Life is not clean. Life is not perfect. Things get messy. Let it be. It's not going to hurt anything. Now, this is mostly texture and shading, so I'm actually leaving it a little bit rough right in here. Get it? Rough, wolf, arf, arf, arf. Just go with it. We all know I'm stupid and cheesy, which is fine. What? Miss Bergman is corny? Who'd have thought? Yeah, whatever. Okay, and then we add a little bit of shading. We can see it's a little bit dark up here. The light is starting to change, so I'm not going to be able to go for much longer. We'll talk about shading eyes a little bit later. We can zoom out. Do that with the whole thing, and all of a sudden you'll end up with the woof. You guys need to shade this in as much as humanly possible. This is going to be due at the end of this week. Your animal drawing will be, the actual project will be due at the end of next week. So you guys have lots of stuff to do. Get working.